Hello and welcome to the fourth video of Angular Web Development series. My name is Akil and in this video we will be learning how to create components, different ways of using components, and we will learn these all things through examples. So let's get started. So to create components, we will go to the terminal from here and then we will enter the command ng, which is the base for any Angular application or anything we create inside our application like components, directives, services, etc. And then generate, which is used to generate anything, as I told you that like components, directives or services, etc. And then the component keyword, which is used to tell Angular that this is an Angular component, and then the name of the component. We specify it as header. You can use C instead of component as an alias, and also G for generate as an alias. So this will create a header component having 4 files. So this has created it inside our header, inside our app component, and this is the header component having 4 files: the CSS file which is used for styling, the HTML file which is used for the data that is used inside the UI part, and the .spec file which is used for testing, and the TypeScript which is used for logical data. So now we will learn what are the different ways of using components. Now there are different ways of using components in Angular, and the first way is to use the selector of the that component as an HTML tag. Like we can use the app header inside our app component using the uh, HTML tag app header. So this will create app header component inside the app.component HTML file, which will render it to the browser. So now let's look it through the example. So now we will go here inside our app.component, the HTML file, and then we will specify the name of the selector of that component, which is the header component, as an HTML tag. So we will use it as an HTML tag. So in here our a header component will be registered inside our main component, which is app component, and it will render it inside our browser, because the header component or any component we create is not directly rendered in the browser. We have to manually put it inside the app component. So now we will use the ng serve dash open command to open it in the browser, and we'll see whether it is working or not. So as you can see, this works fine, and this is coming from the app component.html file inside our main folder. So now this was the first method of using components in Angular. So the second way of using the components inside Angular is using the using the name of selector as an HTML class of any element. But before that, we will have to put the dot symbol in front of this selector. So we will now go into the app component and we'll see whether. So it's saying app header is not a known element. It's because we have put the dot symbol in front of selector of that component, so it's no longer being used as an HTML tag. So we will be using it as an HTML class. So we'll comment this and you can use it as an HTML class, and here we will specify the name of the selector of header component. So this will be used as a class. So we'll look here, and so this is also working fine. This is the second method of using the components. So using the name of selector as a HTML class like div, and then specify the name of a selector of that component, HTML class of HTML elements. The third way of using the component inside our Angular application is by using the name of selector as an attribute of the HTML element. Like if we use inside our div, then we can specify the app header as an attribute of the HTML elements. So now we will use it inside the app component as an attribute, but before we will have to use the square brackets, and we will have to put the selector of that component. In our case it's header component, so we'll have to put it inside the square brackets, and in here our app component we will have to specify as an HTML attribute. So as you can see, this is also giving suggestion because this was used as an attribute of the HTML components. So if we comment this and we'll look it into the browser, and as you can see, this is also working fine. So there were three different ways of using the components inside our application. The first way was using the name of the selector of the header component as an HTML tag, which is by using the app header as an HTML tag. And the second way was using the name of selector as an HTML class like this one. And the third way was using the name of selector as an attribute like this. So yeah, that's it for this video. In the next video we will learn what is data binding, and we will also learn one of its types called interpolation. So thanks for watching the video, and stay tuned for more interesting programming lectures like this.